Alright, so you left all your studying until the night before, which is not ideal, but it's not the end of the world. We can do something about this. First things first, there's a couple things you have to take out of your study session. Number one, I want your phone nowhere near you. If you've waited till the last moment and you're procrastinating, then having your phone around you while you study is going to make the session go so much worse. We need it either completely off, do not disturb, but the main point is we just want it away from you. If you're looking at your phone while you're cramming, you're going to have a really, really bad time and you're going to remember a lot less information because you're giving yourself less time to look at your notes and you're getting distracted more by nonsense. Second, if you listen to music, we want the music to be very relaxing and nothing with lyrics. So we're not going to have you listening to Drake, Kendrick Lamar, or some other artist that you really enjoy while you're cramming for your test. We need music that you hardly recognize, because when you start remembering lyrics and a song comes on that you already know, unconsciously your brain likes to focus on these words that we're already familiar with and sort of pull you away from your studies and your focus. So we either want you listening to something relaxing like instrumental, lo-fi, classical, something that's not going to pull your attention away from your work, but ideally you'd just be listening to nothing at all, because at the end of the day, music is going to distract you at least a little bit. But if you find that you really can only work with music in the background, something instrumental, relaxing, that's not going to pull you away from your studies. And the last general thing is that if you're really locking in and you have to study a lot of information in one night, we need you studying alone. Even if you usually study in a group or you usually study with your friends, you need to find a quiet place to study alone so you can focus. Now, the rest of your success in the study plan is contingent on if you can separate important and unimportant information. We need to focus on what information is going to be the most important for us to know and what's sort of irrelevant. Especially in real difficult STEM classes where you might have a crazy amount of information to learn in one night, we really need to focus on what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck. And I like to refer to the Pareto distribution or the 80-20 rule for stuff like this, as often 20% of the studying can give us 80% of the results when it actually comes to test day. So a lot of people will waste their time just memorizing flashcard after flashcard of random definitions that won't even be on their test. What you want to do is zero in on the key terms and the key concepts that everything else is related to. Now, once you've pinpointed what the most important concepts are, you actually have to go and read through all the content for the test. And what I would recommend is reading notes that already exist. So you're reading the PowerPoint slides, you might be reading over the notes that you already took in class. What I really would not recommend is trying to redo the notes again the night before. So I would not recommend making flashcards the night before, as this is just so unbelievably time consuming. Now I want you to look over all the information for the class. But the thing is, I only want you to zero in on the information from before that you identified as more important. We want you to have a general idea of what's going on in the class, so we can't just have you skipping dozens and dozens of slides because they still might have somewhat relevant information, but I want you to focus the most on the key concepts that you identified before. Now, once you've looked through all the slides and all the notes, the most important thing to do now is to go and do practice problems, because a lot of these questions will likely be similar to whatever you're going to see on test day, and especially if there are actual practice tests, this is hands down the most important thing you can do during a night of cramming. You want to do the practice test because it's most likely going to give you something similar to the layout of the actual test. And I would recommend studying in this order of first looking at the notes and then doing the practice test, because we want you to sort of prime yourself with all the information so you sort of know what's going on before you jump right into a test. Because if you haven't studied any of the notes yet and you're sort of just going cold right into the practice test, then you're sort of going to be wasting your time because you're just going through questions and you're not really too sure of what's going on yet because you haven't studied the information. So if you want to do it most productively, I would say first go into the notes and get a general idea of what's going on in the class, and then more so use the practice test as a way to gauge how well you've learned and what you need to go back and review. Now, my final piece of advice is to not give up too early, but also know when it's time to stop studying. Because a lot of people like to think that when they're cramming for a test, that if they haven't studied the information before and they don't understand it by, say, 11 p.m. the night before, then they're just not going to know it by the time of the test. A lot of people like to think that if I don't know it now, I won't know it then, so I should just go to bed. And in my experience, this is just sort of a load of nonsense. You can stay up late and you can study this information. It's not going to be comfortable and you're not going to enjoy it, but if you understand none of the information yet, it's a lot better to go into the test a bit tired, but actually retain the information, know more terms, know more core concepts. At the same time though, if you're studying until, say, 5 in the morning, you're going to be so tired and groggy that eventually it's sort of going to tip the scale and it's going to become more harmful than good as you study more and more and more. So you want to sort of strike that balance of I'm learning the information, but at the same time, I'm not making myself so exhausted that I can't remember anything on the actual test day. So study hard and study for a while, but do make sure you're not pulling all-nighters. It's better to get at least an hour or two of sleep as opposed to powering through the entire night. As always, thanks for watching till the end. If you like videos like this on productivity for college students, you should subscribe because there's going to be a whole lot more soon. But until then, I'll see you guys.